The man in the $10,000 suit noticed her first. Connor Lee didn't take the subway. Ever. Men like him didn't ride Line 2 during rush hour with students and office workers and grandmothers carrying market vegetables. But tonight he did. And from his position near the connecting doors, he watched a young woman in a cream blouse count stops under her breath. 6 more. Just 6 more. Her knuckles were white around the pole. Her phone screen was dark, but she stared at it anyway. Professional. Put together. Except for the way she flinched when the train lurched. Connor had seen that posture before. On his mother 20 years ago. Gangnam Station, 6:47 p.m. Doors opened with the usual chaos, bodies pushing, the recorded announcement, the warning beep. Then he boarded. The drunk stumbled into the car. Cheap cologne losing to soju. Tie loosened, eyes scanning, searching, hunting. When he spotted the woman in cream, his face twisted. She locked up, color draining, trying to disappear in a crowded train, impossible, but she'd clearly practiced. Caston, the name shredded through the evening commute. Conversations died. A teenager paused his game. The grandmother beside her leaned away. The man shoved through the crowd. Designer watch, wedding ring, the swagger of someone who'd never been told no. 60 people in that car. 60 pairs of eyes found the floor. Connor's fingers flexed once. Near the far doors, 2 men in black suits shifted weight. "Let's not do this here," Caston whispered. The drunk cornered her against the priority seats. Close enough that passengers stepped back, creating a bubble around the violence they wouldn't stop. "You think you can ignore my calls?" Soju breath. Slurred rage. 3 times. "I was in a meeting." "Don't." His hand shot out, grabbing her face, fingers digging into her jaw. "Your promises are worthless." The train slowed for the next station. His other hand rose, and cracked across her cheek. The sound exploded through the silent car like a gunshot. She slammed into the metal pole. Blood on her lip, eyes blurring. 60 witnesses looked away. He raised his hand again, face twisted with satisfaction. The satisfaction of a man who knew no one would stop him. A hand in an expensive suit sleeve caught her shoulder. Steadied her. A voice, quiet, cold, absolutely certain, spoke directly behind him. "Beat her again and you die." If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe. It helps me bring you more content like this. Now, let's continue. The train car held its breath. Tyson froze mid-swing, his hand suspended in the air like a paused video. His head turned slowly, too slowly, toward the voice behind him. Connor Lee stood close enough to touch. Close enough to kill. The fluorescent lights caught the sharp lines of his suit, the dangerous calm in his eyes, the absolute stillness of a predator who didn't need to posture. "I said," Connor repeated, his voice dropping lower, "beat her again and you die." It wasn't a threat. Threats had emotion behind them, anger, bravado, heat. This was a statement of fact. The sky is blue. Water is wet. Touch her again and you stop breathing. The drunk man's bravado crumbled like wet paper. His eyes darted past Connor to the 2 men in black suits near the doors, stone-faced, hands clasped, watching with the patience of wolves. She's my wife," Tyson stammered, his voice climbing an octave. "She's a person," Connor said. "And you just committed assault in front of 60 witnesses." The crowd hadn't moved, hadn't breathed, but now they were watching. Phones stayed down, but eyes were locked on the confrontation. The bubble of willful ignorance had popped. Tyson's hand dropped. "You don't know what this isn't your business." "I'm making it my business." Something in Connor's tone made Tyson step back. Then another step. His face cycled through emotions, rage, confusion, fear, more fear. The train began to slow. Seoulung Station. 1 stop from Gangnam. "This isn't over," Tyson spat, but his voice shook. He pointed at Caston. "You're coming home tonight. We'll talk about this." He backed toward the doors, eyes darting between Connor and his bodyguards, hands up in performative innocence. When the doors opened, he bolted onto the platform like a rabbit fleeing a fox. The doors closed. The train lurched forward. Silence. Connor turned to Caston. She was still pressed against the pole, one hand covering her bleeding lip, her entire body trembling. Shock. Adrenaline. The surreal aftermath of public violence interrupted. "You're safe," he said quietly. Not a command. A reassurance. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. The careful composure she'd maintained for 2 years was cracking, splintering, breaking apart in real time. Her voice fractured. I'm sorry, he doesn't usually. Don't apologize. Connor's tone was gentle but firm. You have nothing to apologize for. The train car was still watching, but differently now. The grandmother had tears in her eyes. The businessman looked ashamed. The teenager had put his phone away entirely. Connor didn't move closer, didn't crowd her space, just stood between her and the rest of the car, a human shield, and asked one question. How long has this been happening? Caston's defenses, the ones she'd built brick by brick over 24 months, the armor that let her function and work and pretend, collapsed. 2 years, she whispered. And then, for the first time in public, surrounded by strangers on a subway car hurtling through Seoul, Caston K began to cry. The black Mercedes was waiting at Seoul Station like Connor had summoned it from thin air. Caston sat in the back seat, tissues clutched in her shaking hands, mascara streaked down her cheeks. The leather was soft. The car was silent except for the low purr of the engine. Through tinted windows, the city blurred past in streaks of neon and headlights. I'm sorry, she said suddenly, her voice small. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, you didn't have to, I've caused so much trouble. Stop. Connor's voice wasn't harsh, but it cut through her spiral instantly. You have nothing to apologize for, he said, turning to face her. He does. Cowards always do. She looked at him properly for the first time. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that held something between sympathy and fury. The kind of face that appeared in news articles with words like, alleged, and undisclosed business interests. Why did you help me? She whispered. Connor was quiet for a moment. The car turned onto a wide boulevard, heading toward the glass towers of Gangnam. My father beat my mother for 15 years, he said finally. I was 10 the first time I tried to stop him. He broke my arm. His tone was factual, emotionless. I was 17 when I got big enough to break his. Caston's breath caught. I swore I'd never become him, Connor continued. And I swore I'd never watch another man do what he did and do nothing. But you don't even know me. I know enough. He met her eyes. True power doesn't need violence. Real strength protects. Only the weak, only cowards, hurt the people they claim to love. The car pulled up to a sleek building, all glass and steel and security cameras. Connor's driver opened the door. Inside his office, Caston felt impossibly small. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. Minimalist furniture. Abstract art that probably cost more than her annual salary. Connor poured her water from a crystal decanter. She didn't touch it. I can offer you protection, he said. A secure apartment. 24-hour security. Legal resources, the best lawyers in Seoul. He paused. And most importantly, space to decide what you want next. Without fear. Caston's hands twisted in her lap. I can't pay you. I'm not asking you to. Then what do you want? For you to be safe. Simple. Direct. That's all. Every instinct screamed that this was too good to be true. Men didn't help without wanting something. They didn't offer protection without demanding control. Tyson had taught her that lesson over and over. But Tyson had also taught her what real danger looked like. And this man, dangerous as he clearly was, had stepped between her and violence when 60 others had looked away. If I say yes, her voice trembled, can I change my mind? Can I leave if I want to? The door is always unlocked, Connor said. Always. Caston closed her eyes, thought of going home tonight. Of Tyson's rage, amplified by humiliation. Of explaining the bruises at work tomorrow. Of 2 more years, 5, 10, of never escaping. She opened her eyes. Okay, she whispered. I'll accept your help. Not because she trusted him, but because she had nowhere else to turn. The words came slowly at first, then faster. Like a dam breaking. He controls everything, Caston said, staring at her hands. The bank accounts. My paycheck goes directly to him. He gives me an allowance, barely enough for lunch and transportation. Connor listened without interrupting, just listened. I haven't seen my sister in 8 months. My parents. Her voice cracked. He said they poisoned me against him. That they never respected our marriage. So I had to choose, him or them. You chose survival. I chose wrong. She touched her left wrist unconsciously. This was from falling downstairs 6 months ago. He drove me to the hospital himself. Stayed in the room the whole time, telling the doctors how clumsy I was. The bruise on her cheek was darkening. Purple blooming across pale skin. The black eyes were harder to hide, she continued, her voice distant now, detached. I got good with makeup. Watched YouTube tutorials, color correction, full coverage foundation, setting powder. A hollow laugh. I could work for a cosmetics company. Caston, he strangled me once. The words dropped like stones. 3 months ago, we were fighting about dinner, it's always something stupid, you know? Dinner, laundry, the way I looked at the mailman. She swallowed hard. He put his hands around my throat and squeezed until everything went black. Connor's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. When I woke up, he was crying. Apologizing. He brought me flowers the next day. 24 roses. Her eyes were dry now. Past tears. He said he'd never do it again. That I'd pushed him too far. That if I just tried harder to be a better wife. She finally looked up at Connor. I believed him. Connor stood, pulling out his phone. He made 3 calls, short, clipped, efficient. Apartment. Security team. Doctor for tomorrow. You'll stay in one of my properties tonight, he said. Secure building. Doorman. Cameras. No one gets in without clearance. Caston nodded numbly. 2 hours later, she stood in an apartment that cost more per month than she made in 6. Marble floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A bed that looked like clouds. The security guard had introduced himself. Jung Ho, former military, would be outside her door until his replacement arrived at midnight. Caston locked the door, then checked it again, walked through every room, closets, bathroom, under the bed, empty, safe, hers. She lay down fully clothed on top of the covers, staring at the ceiling, waiting for her heart to stop racing. And for the first time in 2 years, Caston K fell asleep without fear. Across the city, Tyson kicked open his apartment door at 11 p.m. Caston? Empty. Dark. He checked every room, bathroom, closet, even looked under the bed like she was a child hiding from punishment. His phone. He'd call her, demand she come home, teach her what happened when she embarrassed him. 3 calls, straight to voicemail, then 4, 5, 10. Rage built with each unanswered ring. That man on the train. The suit. The bodyguards. The threat. Tyson's hands shook as he dialed a different number. 112, what's your emergency? His voice cracked with performative panic. My wife, she's been kidnapped. A man took her, a criminal. I think she's in terrible danger. The concerned husband, the victim, the lie he'd tell until someone believed it. Detectives Kim Min-jun and Park Ji-won arrived at the Gangnam address at 9 a.m. sharp. Kidnapping cases we take seriously, Kim said as they rode the elevator. He was older, seasoned, with the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much. Husband seemed genuinely distraught on the phone. Park nodded, reviewing her notes. Said his wife was taken by a known criminal. Gave us this address, said the man has connections to organized crime. Connor Lee's building, Kim muttered. That tracks. They expected locked doors, lawyers, evasion. What they got was Caston K answering on the second knock, dressed in borrowed clothes, dark bruise blooming across her cheek. Detectives? She stepped back. Please, come in. Kim and Park exchanged glances. Kidnapping victims didn't invite police in calmly. Didn't offer tea. Ms. K, we received a report that you were taken against your will. I know. Caston sat on the pristine white couch. My husband called you. He's very convincing when he wants to be. Park pulled out her notebook. So you're saying you came here voluntarily? I'm saying I ran for my life. Caston stood, walked to the bedroom, returned with a manila folder. Thick, organized, tabs labeled by date. She opened it on the coffee table. Hospital records. Seoul National University Hospital, 6 months ago. Diagnosis. Fractured left wrist. Mechanism of injury. Patient reports fall downstairs. Photograph. Timestamp. March 15, 2025, 11:47 p.m. Geotagged to her apartment. Black eye, split lip, handprint bruises on her throat. Text message. April 3rd Road. You're worthless, you know that? Can't even keep a house clean, what kind of wife are you? Text message. April 4th. Baby, I am so sorry, I didn't mean it, please forgive me, I'll change, I promise. Audio file. May 28th. Tyson's voice, slurred and venomous. I'll kill you if you ever embarrass me like that again. You understand me? I'll fucking kill you. More photos, more records, more evidence. 6 months of meticulous documentation. I started collecting proof when I realized he was going to kill me eventually, Kasten said quietly. I just never had anywhere safe enough to use it. Until yesterday. Kim stared at the folder. Park's hand had stopped writing. I wasn't kidnapped, detectives. Kasten met their eyes. I was rescued from the man who's been killing me slowly for 2 years. 2 hours later, they sat across from Connor Lee in his office. Expensive suit. Calm demeanor. Lawyer present but silent. Mr. Lee, can you explain your relationship with Ms. K? I witnessed her husband assault her on line 2 yesterday evening at approximately 6:47 p.m., Connor said. His answers were precise, measured. I intervened. Afterward, she accepted my offer of temporary safe housing. Why you? Park asked. Why not call the police? 60 people were on that train, detective. Not one of them called either. Connor's expression didn't change. She needed immediate safety. I provided it. And you just happened to have an empty apartment? I own several properties. It seemed the least I could do. Kim leaned forward. Mr. K says you're a dangerous criminal. Mr. K also says his wife fell down the stairs. Connor slid a tablet across the desk. These are witness statements from passengers on line 2. All voluntary. All describing the same assault. Park scrolled through them. 12 statements. Consistent. Detailed. Several mentioned the slap that echoed through the car. Ms. K is free to leave whenever she chooses, Connor continued. She's free to speak to you without me present, as she did. She's free, period. That's the difference between my help and her husband's control. Kim and Park left 20 minutes later. In the elevator, Park spoke first. The husband's the criminal. Yeah, Kim agreed, thinking of the photographs, the audio, the evidence of 2 years of systematic abuse. He absolutely is. If this story is resonating with you, please hit the like button and subscribe. Your support means everything. Now, let's continue. 5 weeks later, Kasten sat in her therapist's office and said the words out loud for the first time. I think I'm going to be okay. Dr. Yoon smiled. That's progress. The restraining order had been granted 3 weeks ago. The divorce papers filed 2 days after that. Tyson had been served at work, in front of his colleagues, a small justice that Kasten tried not to take too much pleasure in. Her sister had cried when Kasten finally called. I thought I'd lost you forever. You almost did, Kasten admitted. Now they met for coffee twice a week. Awkward at first, rebuilding trust brick by brick. But rebuilding nonetheless. Connor's apartment remained hers for as long as she needed it. He'd made that clear from day one. No timeline, no pressure, no strings. You'll know when you're ready to find your own place, he'd said during one of their weekly check-ins. They met at a cafe, neutral ground, always public. Until then, the apartment is yours. Why are you doing this? She'd asked. Not the first time, maybe the 10th. He'd been quiet for a long moment, coffee cooling in his hands. My mother never escaped, he said finally. She stayed until it killed her. Heart attack at 47. The doctors called it natural causes, but I knew better. 20 years of fear and pain and violence stops your heart eventually. His jaw tightened. I swore I'd protect others from what she endured. This is how I do that. Kasten had reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Just once, understanding passing between them without words. But Tyson wasn't done. The calls started 2 weeks after the restraining order. Blocked numbers, new SIM cards, voicemails that alternated between threats and desperate pleas. You can't just leave me, Kasten. We took vows. I'll ruin you. I'll tell everyone what a whore you are. Baby, please, I've changed. I'm in therapy. Just give me another chance. You'll regret this. I promise you'll regret this. She documented everything, forwarded it all to her lawyer. Then he showed up at her office. Security escorted him out, but he'd made his point. The restraining order was just paper. He could violate it whenever he wanted. Her lawyer, Attorney Choi, filed for an emergency hearing. That's when Tyson snapped. He was waiting outside the Seoul family court when Attorney Choi left after a pre-trial conference. Late afternoon. Busy sidewalk. Witnesses everywhere. Didn't matter. This is your fault. Tyson screamed, grabbing Choi's arm. You're poisoning her against me. Filling her head with lies. Attorney Choi, all 5'2" of her, didn't flinch. Mr. K, you're violating a restraining order. Let go of me now. I'll make you drop this case. His hand rose, fist clenched. 3 courthouse security guards tackled him before it landed. He fought them, screaming obscenities, face red with rage. Pedestrians scattered. Someone filmed it on their phone. The police arrived 4 minutes later. Tyson K. was arrested on the courthouse steps and charged with attempted assault, violation of restraining order, and harassment. Attorney Choi called Caston from the police station. "It's over," she said. He just destroyed any chance he had in court. Caston sat in her safe apartment, phone pressed to her ear, and finally, let herself believe it might be true. The trial date arrived on a cold November morning. Caston stood outside Seoul Central District Court, her hands shaking despite the coffee she clutched for warmth. The building loomed above her, all concrete and glass and the weight of justice. "You don't have to do this," Connor said quietly. He'd driven her but kept his distance, respecting the space she needed. "The evidence is enough," your lawyer said. "I need to say it all out loud." Caston's voice was steady, stronger than she felt. "Not for the judge, not for the jury, for me." He nodded. "Then I'll be right there." Inside, the courtroom was smaller than she expected. Clinical. Fluorescent lights and wooden benches and the prosecutor reviewing notes at her table. Tyson sat with his lawyer, suit pressed, hair combed, playing the role of respectable businessman. When Caston entered, his eyes found hers, pleading, then cold, then threatening in the span of seconds. She looked away. The charges were read: aggravated assault, domestic violence, stalking, violation of restraining order, each one a piece of the nightmare she'd lived. Then the prosecutor called her name. The prosecution calls Caston K. to the stand. Her legs felt like water walking to the witness box. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, sat down. Breathed. "Ms. K., can you tell the court what happened on the evening of October 2nd? And Caston told them everything. The train. Tyson boarding drunk at Gangnam Station. The slap that echoed through the car while 60 people looked away. Connor's intervention. The threat that saved her life. But it didn't start that day, did it?" the prosecutor prompted gently. "No." Caston's voice shook, but she didn't stop. "It started 2 years ago. Small things at first, controlling my money, isolating me from my family, criticizing everything I did." She recounted the broken wrist. The black eyes. The night he strangled her unconscious, then apologized with roses. "He said I made him do it. That if I was a better wife, he wouldn't lose control." Tyson's lawyer objected twice. Overruled both times. The evidence was presented. Hospital records. Photographs timestamped and geotagged. Text messages oscillating between abuse and apology. Audio recordings of threats. 12 witness statements from Line 2 passengers. Security footage from the courthouse showing Tyson attacking Attorney Choi. His defense crumbled like sand. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty. All charges. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s who'd probably seen 1,000 cases like this, removed her glasses and looked directly at Tyson. "Mr. K., you stood before witnesses and vowed to love, honor, and cherish your wife. You betrayed every word of those vows." Her voice was ice. "She was your wife, and you forfeited that bond when you chose violence over love. When you chose control over partnership. When you chose your ego over her safety." She picked up her gavel. 4 years in prison, mandatory counseling, permanent restraining order upon release. The gavel fell. Caston closed her eyes and felt something break inside her, not shattering, but releasing. A weight she'd carried so long she'd forgotten what freedom felt like. When she opened them, Tyson was being led away in handcuffs, still trying to catch her eye, still trying to make her feel guilty. She looked through him like he was glass. He had no power here. Not anymore. The November air hit Caston's face as she stepped out of the courthouse, sharp and cold and real. She stopped on the steps, just breathing. People rushed past, lawyers with briefcases, families heading to hearings, bureaucrats on lunch breaks. The city moved around her like water around a stone. But she wasn't bracing, wasn't looking over her shoulder, wasn't calculating escape routes or monitoring for footsteps behind her. Just breathing. "It's over," she whispered. Connor stood a few feet away, giving her space, waiting. Always waiting for her to decide what came next. She turned to him. "It's really over. You did that," he said quietly. "You saved yourself. I just gave you space to do it. You gave me more than space." Caston walked down 2 steps, closing the distance between them. "You gave me a choice when I'd forgotten I had one." The courthouse crowd flowed around them. Strangers with their own battles, their own verdicts, their own moments of justice or heartbreak. Kasten reached up and kissed him. Not desperate, not grateful, not seeking rescue or safety or protection. Just choosing. For herself. On her terms. In her timing. Connor froze for half a heartbeat, then kissed her back, gentle, careful, like she was something precious that might break. When they pulled apart, his eyes held something she'd never seen before. Vulnerability. I've wanted to do that since the train, he admitted. Since I watched you count stops under your breath and knew you were surviving something terrible. Why didn't you? Because you needed to be free first. Truly free, not just legally, but in here. He touched her chest lightly, over her heart. By your own strength. Not because you felt grateful or obligated or scared. Kasten's eyes stung. What if I'm still scared? Then we take it slow. Connor's hand found hers. Held it loosely enough that she could pull away any time. No pressure. No expectations. We build something real, based on equality, not rescue. Based on choice, not control. I don't know how to do that, she confessed. I don't know what a healthy relationship even looks like. Neither do I. He smiled, small and honest. My examples weren't great either. But maybe we figure it out together? Kasten looked at their intertwined hands. His grip was warm but not tight. Present but not possessive. She could let go any second she wanted. She didn't want to. Slow, she said. Really slow. As slow as you need. And if I need space, I'll give it to you. Always. And if I change my mind about any of this, then you change your mind. No guilt. No consequences. Connor's expression was serious. You choose me every day or you don't. That's how this works. Kasten tested the weight of those words. Turned them over in her mind like stones, looking for cracks, for conditions, for the control that always hid behind promises. Found none. Okay, she said finally. Let's try. They walked down the courthouse steps together, hand in hand, into the afternoon light. Behind them, justice had been served. Ahead of them, something new was beginning. Something built on freedom. 6 months later, Kasten woke up in Connor's penthouse. Their penthouse now, to spring sunlight and the smell of coffee. She'd moved in 3 months ago. Slowly, one box at a time. Testing each step, watching for red flags that never came. Her things mixed with his. Her books on his shelves. Her photos on the mantle. 2 toothbrushes in the bathroom. Equal space, equal say, equal power. Morning, Connor said, handing her coffee exactly how she liked it. He'd learned without asking, just paying attention. Morning. She kissed him, still marveling that she could initiate affection without fear. That touch could be soft instead of a precursor to violence. Her phone buzzed. Her sister. Lunch next week? Mom wants to come too. Kasten smiled and typed back. Yes, I'll bring Connor. The reconciliation had been slow, painful, necessary. Apologies on both sides, theirs for giving up too easily, hers for pushing them away. But they were rebuilding. Family dinners, phone calls, trust earned back in increments. Work had promoted her 2 months ago. Senior marketing coordinator, a raise, an office with a window. Recognition for talent that Tyson had spent 2 years convincing her she didn't have. And twice a week, she volunteered at Seoul Women's Shelter, helping survivors navigate the legal system she'd only recently escaped herself. You understand what they're going through, the director had said. That matters more than any degree. Now Connor set down his coffee, his expression serious. I need to tell you something. Kasten's stomach tightened reflexively, old habit, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm selling off the gray area operations, he said. The businesses that operate in, let's call them legal shadows. All of it. She blinked. That's most of your empire. I know. He met her eyes. But I want something different now. Something clean. For us. For the life I want to build with you, completely legitimate, completely transparent. Connor, you don't have to. I want to. He reached across the table, taking her hand. I've spent 15 years building power in the shadows. Now I want to build something in the light. He stood, walked around the table, and knelt. Kasten's breath caught. This is a choice, Connor said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Yours. No pressure. No expectations. You can say no and nothing changes between us. He opened the box. A simple platinum band with a single diamond, elegant, not ostentatious. Kasten K, will you marry me? She looked at him. At the man who'd stepped between her and violence when strangers looked away. Who'd given her safety without demanding gratitude? Who'd waited for her to be ready, never pushing, never controlling? Who was kneeling but not begging? Offering but not demanding? Yes, she whispered. Then louder. Yes. He slid the ring on her finger, stood, lifted her into his arms. That night, they wrote their vows together. Not traditional words, but their truth. To protect without controlling. To love without possessing. To give freedom, not take it. To build safety where there was once fear. To choose each other, every day, or not at all. Kasten looked at the words on paper and felt something she'd thought lost forever. Hope. Not for rescue. For partnership. For love that didn't hurt. For a future she was building with her own hands. Thank you so much for staying with this story until the end. If it touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps more people find these stories of hope and healing. Now, the final chapter. 1 year later, Kasten sat beside Yuna in the courthouse waiting room, holding her hand. I can't do this, Yuna whispered. 23, bruises fading on her arms, terror still fresh in her eyes. What if the judge doesn't believe me? Then we show them the evidence, Kasten said calmly. She'd become a trained advocate now, certified through the Seoul Women's Shelter program. You've documented everything. Hospital records, photos, witnesses. The truth is on your side. But he'll be in there. Looking at me. So look at me instead. Kasten squeezed her hand. You're not alone anymore, I promise. When Yuna walked into that courtroom, Kasten watched her transformation. From victim to survivor to warrior. The same journey Kasten had taken. The protection order was granted. Afterward, over coffee, Yuna asked, how did you get so strong? Kasten thought of the train. Of Connor's intervention. Of choosing freedom every single day since. I learned that survival isn't living, she said. And that asking for help isn't weakness, it's the bravest thing you can do. That evening, Kasten found Connor in their living room, reviewing plans for his newest venture, a legitimate tech investment firm. I need to tell you something, she said. He looked up, immediately attentive. I'm pregnant. The color drained from his face. Then flooded back, joy and terror warring in his expression. What if, his voice cracked. What if I become like my father? What if there's something broken in me that... Kasten crossed to him, took his face in her hands. You've spent your entire life becoming the opposite of him, she said firmly. You stepped between me and violence when you could have looked away. You gave me freedom when you could have taken control. You chose light over shadow. Her eyes held his. Our child will know only protection and love. I trust you completely. His hands covered hers, trembling. Completely, he whispered. Completely. 5 years later, Line 2 pulled into Gangnam Station at 6:47 p.m. Kasten held her daughter Min Seo's hand as they boarded, 4 years old, curious eyes taking in everything. Appa, why are we riding the train? Min Seo asked Connor. We have a car. Because this is where Appa met Ioma, Connor said, lifting her onto his shoulders. On a train? Min Seo giggled. On this exact train, Kasten said. It was the worst day that became the beginning of our best life. They rode 3 stops, the evening commuters flowing around them. Kasten caught sight of a young woman counting stops under her breath, bruise barely hidden under her collar. Their eyes met for just a moment. Kasten slipped her a card for the women's shelter before they exited at Seoul Station. Outside, Min Seo asked, Ioma, why did you give that lady your card? Because sometimes people need help, and we can give it. Is that what you do? Min Seo had learned her mother was regional director at her company and co-founder of Safe Harbor Foundation, though she didn't fully understand what that meant yet. Yes, baby. I help people who are scared become strong. Connor knelt beside his daughter. Min Seo, remember what we taught you? Real strength is protecting people who can't protect themselves, Min Seo recited. And real love never hurts. Exactly. They walked toward the parking garage, a family of 3 heading home. Kasten looked back once at Line 2, at the platform where her nightmare had ended and her freedom had begun. Then looked forward at her husband and daughter. At the life she'd built from ashes. At the warrior she'd become. At the love that protected without possessing. At home.